Greetings. I hope that you are doing really well and you're practicing excellent self-care. I hope that you are meditating, practicing some mindfulness. I hope that you are getting outside, exercising, drinking plenty of water, eating healthy food, surrounding yourself with excellent people, kind people, people that have your best interests, people that have integrity and are authentic. I hope that you are finding a spiritual community. If you want private coaching, go to coachcat.org. And in this video, what I'm going to talk about is why narcissists will often find themselves, or narcissists and codependents will often find themselves in relationship together. This dynamic is pretty common for a codependent to be in a relationship with a narcissist. And part of this is because, well, let's kind of go over this. A narcissist is an individual, as this whole channel is dedicated to, and many other channels. So you already know a lot of this, but they have an inflated sense of self-worth. They demonstrate grandiosity and they exhibit feelings of superiority. Now, sometimes this grandiosity is very subtle and hidden in the case of the quiet, vulnerable, shy, covert narcissist. But they do have the same sort of mentality. A narcissist has a very poor empathy and a disregard for other people's feelings. They tend to have they actually have a poor self-image, and they're but they pretend the opposite, right? They send a mask of perfection and superiority, but they actually internally, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that these are very deeply insecure people. They have an inability to handle criticism, whether it's perceived or real. And they often narcissists experience, if you ask for your needs to be met, as a personal insult, right? And they often will experience narcissistic injury. The narcissistic injury can be in the form of overt rage if you're dealing with a overt narcissist, or with coverts, the rage is silent treatment, stonewalling, ignoring you, and passive aggressive, right? So someone who's codependent, what they do is they struggle with focusing on their own needs, and they place the priority of other people's needs above their own. They often rely on another person for sort of their self-esteem needs. So a lot of times a codependent is looking for someone else to tell them that they're okay because they have this childhood trauma where they think that they're not good enough, that they're inferior, that they are not worthy of love, right? So you have a narcissist who's spending all their time pretending or acting as if they're superior to everyone, and you have the codependent that is acting or thinks that they're inferior to everyone. And I read somewhere that neither one is true. They're both delusional. So in the middle, let's shoot for a 5. We're not the narcissist where we're better than everyone. We're a 10. We're not the codependent where we're a 0. Maybe we need to go for a 5. Chop wood, carry water, just be a person among people of 7.5 billion people on the planet, right? A codependent also often has low self-esteem. These can be very exceptional people. They can be people that are hardworking, very kind, very empathetic, but they don't see their own value, and they tend to have almost a compulsive desire to take care of others. They tend to have poor boundaries, and they have a need to please, right? Part of their defense mechanism when they were a little kid and they were traumatized, they learned how to operate in their families of origin by being fixers, by being accommodating, by being people pleasing, by being overly nice. They did this because they needed to do that in order to survive, right? Or at least that's what their little kid brain thought. So then they grow up and they sort of replicate that sort of dynamic in their adult relationships. So if they're with a narcissist who is usually formed from either trauma or parental objectification, parents saying, look at our perfect golden child, isn't he or she just perfect? And they objectified the child, made the child feel that they had, in order to be loved, they had to perform, right? So they turn their kid into an object. That's a lot of times where narcissism comes from, or from severe abandonment or trauma. So you see, both are obviously very traumatized individuals, but they find each other because codependent is a pathological giver and a narcissist is a pathological taker. Codependent is pathologically focused on other people's needs. A narcissist is pathologically focused on their own needs, right? And I say pathological because if you are giving at your own expense, then that's pathological. a pathological taker, if you're taking at other people's expense, that is pathological. So I read somewhere that in a relationship dynamic between a codependent and a narcissist, you have two people in the relationship that are primarily concerned with the needs of only one. So the codependent is concerned with the needs of the narcissist, and the narcissist is concerned with the needs of the narcissist. Meanwhile, nobody's concerned with the needs of the codependent, right? So because the codependent often finds value in helping others, even at the cost of their own mental and emotional health or well-being. The codependent needs to feel sort of wanted, and they can sometimes feel worthless if they don't have somebody in their life to caretake. And the narcissist requires supply. So they like the codependent because that codependent is like a very nice, consistent form of narcissistic supply. The problem is the narcissist is also cheating usually on the codependent, and they're cheating with other people. That may be their primary source of supply, but they're getting additional sources from other people, right? That because narcissists really have a difficult time being faithful. Most of them just can't do it. So they're always cheating, and the codependent is putting all their energy, all their effort, all their love, all their time, all their affection into the narcissist, while the narcissist is doing whatever they want, which is usually very duplicitous and hurtful and harmful to others. But because they have this egregious impairment in empathy, they can't tap into the pain that they cause other people. They're very much about compartmentalization. So the narcissist needs to be viewed as perfect. They can do no wrong in their relationship. They can accept no personal responsibility. They put their needs and wants above everyone else. At the same time, the codependent places their wants and needs, the narcissist wants and needs above their own. And the narcissistic partner needs someone to boost their self-esteem and worship them for their perfection, right? And a codependent is usually so conflict avoidant and they're always about encouraging others. So it's easy for them to be like, you're so amazing, you're so wonderful. So to the narcissist, that's delicious, yummy snackery. So this is a very one-sided relationship, and the codependent is getting the short end of the stick. It's a very toxic and abusive relationship. Typically, the abuse is not physical, and sometimes it's verbal, but it's definitely psychological and emotional, because the narcissist will use stonewalling, silent treatment, gaslighting, emotional manipulation. They're usually cheating, they're lying, they're manipulating the emotions and the self-esteem of the codependent. They are the perfect one in the relationship. The codependent is the identified patient. Narcissists love it if you accept the responsibility of being the identified patient. And here you could be, if you're the codependent, like in my case, I was in recovery from alcohol, but I was the identified patient. Meanwhile, I'm sitting next to the person I was with who is sitting and drinking whiskey after whiskey after whiskey, beer after beer after beer by himself. Well, with me, I wasn't a drinker, haven't drank for 14 years, but I was the identified patient. Here this person has a drinking problem that's unaddressed, unacknowledged. I'm the one willing to admit that I had a problem, get some help for it, but here I am, the identified patient. So a lot of times if you're in these relationships with these people, you are the identified patient. If you're the codependent, you're the one that's messed up, right? That is the narrative that is spun by these narcissists. It is complete malarkey. You and I both know it, but a lot of times with codependents, they will take on that. They'll be like, oh, maybe it's true. Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe I am the one that's broken and that person's totally perfect, right? Because the narcissist needs to present as if they're perfect and the codependent is flawed, right? This is very yummy to the narcissist's ego. They just yum, 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 yum. So, you have this dynamic where the codependent's always giving and trying to fix and make everything better. They're doing all this work and self-care. When I say self-care, I mean they're reading the books on how to improve the relationship. They're going to therapy. They're doing all that work. The narcissist is sitting back being like, I'm perfect. I'm perfect. Yes, you should do all the work, right? They don't take any personal responsibility. This is the perfect relationship for the narcissist. In fact, narcissists suss out codependents and people that have a high level of empathy. The narcissist loves to be placed on the pedestal by the codependent. And a lot of times the codependent is more than willing to do this because they have huge hearts and they're givers and they want everyone to be happy around them, right? And they put other people's wants, needs, desires, and everything above their own. And then during the idealization phase of the relationship, the narcissist will put the codependent up on a pedestal, but that's brief. And, they do that 3-part relationship, trajectory: idealization, devaluation, discard. That's how they roll. Sometimes it's over and over in the context of the relationship. Other times it's idealization, long, slow devaluation, and then this discard that can come like out of the blue. This dynamic is very one-sided. It's based on an inequality of power where the codependent is always giving and the narcissist is always taking. It's very damaging to the mental health of the parties because, one, it's damaging to the self-esteem of the codependent, and they're the identified patients, really damaging to them. And then it's also damaging actually to the narcissist because it is giving the narcissist this false belief in their superiority and allowing them actually to contribute to abusing another person. So that's probably not good for their mental health. It also enables the narcissist to manipulate the codependent for their own gain. I'm not saying if you're the codependent that you can stop the narcissist from manipulating, because you can't. But by participating in the relationship with the narcissist, they are going to manipulate. They can't help themselves. So on some level, that's the kind of enabling I'm talking about. If you exit the relationship, then, well, of course, the narcissist will find some other codependent or another narcissist, somebody that they can manipulate, because they are never alone. You'll notice this, like they act like they hate people, but they're always in one relationship or another, and there's almost always overlap. These people don't take a couple years off in between relationships to do healing or to be like, what was my part? Maybe I should have done something different. I need to go to therapy. No, they won't do any of that work. So while the codependent partner thrives on helping others and placing others' needs above their own, it can still be very disappointing when their kindness is not met with any sort of appreciation or love. So then the codependent will work harder and harder to please the narcissistic partner. Narcissistic partner sets the bar up here, the codependent meets it, then the bar moves again, meets it, moves. The bar is always moving. No matter what the codependent does, they're never going to satisfy the insatiable, perfectionistic narcissist that expects everyone to be they're hypocrites because they expect everyone to do better and be better than they are. The narcissist expects out of the codependent things that the narcissist is not willing to bring to the relationship, like fidelity, honesty, hard work, monogamy. They won't bring any of those things to the relationship, but they definitely expect the codependent to bring those. And then the narcissist really loves to sit back and enjoy the undying effort the codependent will put into the relationship. And they love to control and manipulate the codependent. So this pairing is very unhealthy. It's very dysfunctional. And you're going to, a narcissist is always going to try to find a codependent or an empath with porous boundaries. Every once in a while, they'll get with another narcissist, and then, they can actually make that relationship work for quite a while. But you have to know that if two narcissists are together, they're gaming each other, they're lying to each other, they're cheating on each other, they're manipulating each other. And it depends upon what types they are. If there's like an overt and a covert, they usually can make it work longer because one of them must, have the power and be the sort of more dominant of the two. But these relationships are, narc and a narc is horribly toxic. They may get together in hating the rest of the world and gossiping and treating, the rest of the world poorly. But usually what you'll find is narcissists with codependents, right? That's very common. And so it's really, really important that if you have some codependent characteristics, which is in your family of origin, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Your response to trauma was fawn. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, codependence. You probably learned that in your family of origin to keep the peace, to be conflict avoidant, to put other people's needs above your own, to be a great caretaker, to really take care of other people. This makes you blood in the water for a narcissist. And so really one of the best ways that you can ensure that you are not going to be with one of these cold, clinical, distant, detached, sick narcissists is you heal your codependence. And one of the main ways to heal codependence is for you to learn healthy boundaries, internal and external boundaries. Learn how to set them and learn how to enforce them. And early on in a relationship with a psychological manipulator or a narcissist, if you set those boundaries early on, if you notice and you watch, you're going to see that they are going to violate your boundaries. They are not going to respect your boundaries. They are going to figure some way around your boundaries. And when that happens, if you have a very well-defined consequence in place and they violate that, they violate the boundary, and you have a consequence and you enact the consequence, then a lot of times you are going to be able to easily exit these relationships early on if you know what to look for. So one, if you're codependent, how to avoid narcissistic relationships, deal with your codependence. Go to 12-step recovery for codependence. Get a codependent coach. I do coaching for codependence. Read some books, do some workbooks, learn healthy boundaries, start setting healthy boundaries, and know the red flags of narcissism. Love bombing, run for the hills, over tons of flattery right away when you first met somebody and it's not in line with how well they know you. That's a huge red flag. Telling you they love you right away, trying to rush the intimacy, trying to rush the sex, trying to rush an obsessive compulsive feeling around the relationship where they want to be with you all the time and they're after you and they're almost obsessed with you. Red flags. Those are all red flags that you really, really, really need to watch for. When you feel like they're worshiping you, you're on a pedestal. The narcissist is just treating you like you're just so amazing right on, really early on. These are red flags. When the actions do not match the words, when they're vague and obtuse about their past, when they don't tell you any stories about no clear idea of why their past relationships ended, when their exes are all very nice or toxic. It could go either way. It depends upon the narcissist and their relationship with that ex. But if they don't have any really clear explanation or reason why the relationship failed, that's something to really pay attention to. Are they capable of introspection? Is this person able to tell you their flaws and what they're doing to work on their flaws? That's a sign that you're dealing with the narcissist if they can't acknowledge that they have any flaws or that they're doing anything to work on them. And they have this strange lack of introspection. These are all red flags. So once you start identifying them and you deal with your codependence, you're going to get healthier and healthier and healthier, and you're going to learn how to stop putting everyone's needs above your own. Start prioritizing your own needs. Start doing radical self-care. Start figuring out what you love, who you are without any external validation, without anyone telling you that you're okay. You start telling you that you're okay. Start getting connected to a higher power. I believe in God, and I feel that God has carried me through some of the most egregious traumas and kept me strong and kept me sober, and I'm very grateful for that. But reach out, to a healthy support group and start doing the work on yourself to sort of cure that codependence. And also know this: codependence is trauma-based. It is not a mental health diagnosis. It is not in the DSM. It is a pattern of behaviors that you can change. It is completely curable. Narcissism, very skeptical that it's curable. Most therapists believe there's absolutely no hope for narcissists, but who knows? There may be some help for them. I think if people are willing to face themselves and get some, introspection and become self-aware and connect with a higher power and a higher group and maybe do some recovery work, maybe they can get well or better, but you have to be able to want the help. You have to realize that there's something wrong with you. You have to not just accept or just need to be perfect. You need to accept that you're a human, you're flawed, you're not a Robotron, you're flawed, and we all are flawed. We're all a little bit broken and we all need help. So admitting that, acknowledging that, and getting some help is key to healing, definitely for codependence. And there's a lot of people who have healed their codependence. Lots and lots of stories of that. Lots and lots of stories of somebody who is in a relationship with a manipulator, narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, whatever, and they got out of it. They went through the trauma, they went through the grief process, they did some healing, they watched some videos, they took some courses, they went to a therapist, they dealt with their childhood childhood trauma. They got help for their codependence. They now are able to set healthy boundaries, and they are no longer ruled by their codependence nor attracted to toxic manipulators anymore. So there are a lot of stories of people that have completely sort of put their codependence in remission or cured it. So there is absolutely hope for you if that's what side of the sort of coin you're on. There's so much help for you. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.